Day one of lockdown 2, the 4-week national lockdown in England comes into effect today after it passed through Parliament yesterday afternoon. Boris Johnson saw off a rebellion from 34 of his own MPs who opposed the second lockdown with support of Labour. Of course, the government won that vote 516 to 39. It was interesting just to hear such a heady figure as 516 read out in favour of anything. Although she abstained in the vote, former Prime Minister Theresa May attacked the government's handling of the data around COVID-19.
For many people, it looks as if the figures are chosen to support the policy rather than the policy being based on the figures.
Let's speak to one of those Conservative MPs now, Sir Desmond Swayne, MP for New Forest West. Desmond Swayne, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
So you were one of 34. I mean, when I was looking at this before the vote, I was hearing figures of 100, 110. 34 didn't quite dent it.
I always tell people to have low expectations because they will inevitably be disappointed. I've been one of 2 votes against face masks before now. So I think people need to be realistic. But the argument is made, will continue to be made, and we're a democracy. Hey, they won the vote. That is democracy. But some of us believe that modern liberal democracy means more than just rule by the majority. It means fundamental liberties, freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom to protest, freedom to be with your family. And that is what's extraordinary, that these have been denied without almost a whimper of protest. I mean, I'm scandalized that the pollsters tell us, apparently, that people actually are thirsty for even more restrictive measures. And this in a nation that sacrificed so much to acquire those liberties.
Here's the bit I don't understand, Desmond. You can put some meat on the bones here for us. You will have known Boris Johnson for a lot of years. I've met him a number of times. Instinctively, I tend to think that Boris Johnson would probably agree with you. But the fact that he doesn't, I suppose, if we all put our Columbo hat on, would tell us that there's good reason behind it. He knows something you don't.
Well, in a democracy, he should tell us. And what they've told us so far hasn't stacked up. The numbers that were used at the last weekend, by the chiefs to terrify us again, their second effort at that, was comprehensively demolished by Professor Hennigan. And so I accept entirely there is a risk. We have to judge between 2 risks. The risk that the NHS may be overwhelmed temporarily, and the risk of huge economic damage. Actually, it's the risk of the NHS being overwhelmed as against the certainty of economic damage. Now, I made a judgment call, and my judgment is that actually I think it's unlikely that the NHS will be overwhelmed. And certainly the figures, I don't believe, bear that out. But hey, that's a judgment call. And I can understand the Prime Minister being terrified of the political consequences of that. Certainly when he's surrounded by this scientific establishment who are wedded to a frankly very dated concept of modelling that stretches back to the flu pandemic of the 1920s and seems to be almost determined to push him in this direction. I believe that he's been held captive. That's the problem.
The trouble is, and I know many parliamentarians yesterday, your colleagues and on different parts of the House, and of course the Prime Minister too, made the point that there are 1,000 people on ventilators in this country, even if COVID isn't killing as many people as other problems, and I think we accept that, and we also accept that the data, frankly, was disgraceful that this 4,000 figure was used, and a very select amount of hospitals were used as well. Nonetheless, the reality, Sir Desmond Swayne, is that we do have more people in hospitals. ICU units, over 1,000 people on ventilators. I mean, that is not something that the NHS can cope with. So on that point alone, whatever your arguments surrounding it, on that point alone, the government are right.
Well, 2 points. First of all, the occupation of ITUs is normal for this time of year. It's not as if there's any excess. It's normal. We normally run at 80% capacity and then surge if there's a problem. But the other thing is this, and this is what I regard as really sinister, the way that the totalitarian state reaches out and its agents begin to go even beyond its own directives. I have had correspondence from doctors in intensive care units who have told me that because they have publicly expressed their doubts about the wisdom of the policy, they have been told that their jobs are under threat. Now, that is definitely totalitarianism.
If that is the case, then that absolutely would be. But so you think the Prime Minister is, I hate to use the word, is he lying to us?
No, I'm absolutely sure. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I genuinely believe that ministers believe that they're doing the right thing. They might not like doing it. I'm certain they dislike doing it. But I do believe that they have persuaded themselves that it's the right thing. You know, we're all different. We all reach our conclusions differently. I take a different view. I believe they've made a profound mistake.
Sir Desmond Swayne, we will speak again on this, I'm sure. Thank you for your time this afternoon. He's the Conservative MP for New Forest West. One of those rebels. There are only 34 of them. They made their voices and their points known. There he is again reiterating why he thinks we should be cautious of some of the data being used. Interesting. This is from Simon Hardy, who says COVID apparently mutates within the mink, as in the animal, and reduces antibody resistance and bypasses vaccinations. We are, Ricky, we're talking to the mink people later, aren't we? Yeah, hopefully. Where are they? In Denmark. The Danes love slaughtering a mink. I mean, they do more than any other country in the world. It's almost a national pastime, it seems. But apparently they've now got to sort of exterminate a bunch of mink because they've gone all manky with the COVIDs. So that's the official scientific terminology, by the way. So we'll get the latest on what's going on with the mink down Denmark way. 0344 499 1000, responding to the madness of lockdown. And when I say the madness of lockdown, I'm talking about the reaction that some people have, whether it's the overzealous security guard, whether it's the old Bill in South Humberside who stick a 73-year-old woman in handcuffs because she wants to see her mum, or someone you've encountered on the train or the sea. You know the kind of